Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Pandemic Legacy Season 0. This is not a full review. That will come in a few weeks. At the moment of me recording this, we are nigh finished with playing it. Not quite, but we'll have it finished soon. Pandemic Legacy Season 0 is a legacy game based on the game of Pandemic and the third in a trilogy, which was a big surprise to me because I had expected Pandemic Season 3, not Pandemic Season 0, which is a prequel set during the time of the Cold War, and so it happens before Pandemic Legacy Season 1. Now, one of the things people are going to ask is, do you need to have played the other Pandemics? You don't need to, although there are spoilers in this one. Not major, but minor spoilers for Season 1. Although you could play Pandemic Season 1 and then go back to Pandemic Season 0 and play it, I do not believe there's anything in this one that talks too much about the Season 2. But you probably should play Season 1 first. Again, this will not be an opinion video. I'm just going to be showing you how the game works. I'll talk a little bit at the end about some changes, and that's it. We'll talk more about it in a couple weeks, but let's get started. Okay, so we've just gone back in time a bit. This is the first time I'm kind of going through the components of this. So you're going to see what's inside the box here without me spoiling anything. So you can see here, it tells you what to expect in here. We have a sheet of stickers, which will be used in the game, character portraits, various different people here, and then you'll be able to customize them, apparently with haircuts and things like that. Some more stickers. I don't actually know what all this stuff means. Then you can see here's the game itself. There's a prologue, and then 12 months, early and late for each month except for December. This is a top secret debriefing book that has stories inside. It says do not read, so we won't. Here's the rule book. You are allowed to read through the rule book. There's a decent amount of rules and a lot of spaces in here where you will place stickers that will change the game up some. These are pretty cool looking. These are the folios here that you'll be able to open with stickers and other things. Who knows what's going to be in these. You'll open them up at various points in the game. These look cool. Some like passports here. And I'm deliberately not opening anything, folks, so that it won't ruin it for us all. And some tiles, some actions that you can take, a bunch of cards, quite a few cards actually. These are the legacy decks, a bunch of pieces here, agents and such, the board, and then a bunch of boxes. Some of these boxes actually have the stuff popped down a little bit. I'm afraid to touch them further because I don't want to spoil what's inside those. But so far this looks good. All right, well, that's all you want to see. Jump to the end thoughts here, but I'm going to show you basically now how the base game of this works. All right, folks, I'm showing you the board here. This is after our first game of this. There's no major changes, no spoilers on the board as of yet. This game is a game that takes up to 12 months. Each month you'll play 1 or 2 games per month. There's also a prologue that you can play, and that's kind of what I'll be showing you here in the game. There is a legacy deck that's included with here, and as you play this legacy deck, you're going to turn over these cards, and they're going to tell you what to do, and you'll keep going until you get to a stop card. And then you're going to set the game up. And so I'm going to be talking about the game as it is in the prologue and in the first game. You should note, though, that there's going to be changes as you go through the game. In a game, you're going to have some objectives that you need to do. So these are the objectives for the prologue, or essentially the practice one. So here I need to search for Agent Sabik. You need to acquire a target in this city with a Russian team. And you'll also notice that if you complete the mission, you're going to read a special thing from the book, and if you fail it, you'll read something else. And then this one here, you need to do a target in an unknown city. So at the beginning of the game, we'll take all the Europe cards, shuffle them, and put one underneath here, but we don't know which card that is. So players are all going to be starting in Washington, D.C., or at least in the first game starting there. And at the beginning of the game, you're going to get a temporary alias. This is in the prologue. This basically gives you a special ability And if your cover's blown, it tells you what to do. Once the game starts, you are going to actually have a full-fledged identity. Players will be using profile pictures and fun stickers. These don't have any effect on the gameplay, but you'll be putting these on your characters, and then you're going to get your little passport and you'll be building some covers in it. So you'll actually be able to kind of change characters as the game goes by and add different assets and specializations. There's little things to cross off here if your cover gets blown. And so you have this little passport book here that will tell you what goes on and happens, and you'll be keeping this from game 1 onwards. So how does the game work? If you've played regular Pandemic, many of this will seem familiar to you. You are going to be at the beginning of the game, draw some city cards here, placing these agents in 3 agents in 3 cities, 3 agents in 2 cities, and 3 agents in 1 city. Players are going to have a handful of cards themselves that are full of cards that match the different cities on the board, or you could possibly have event cards like this airlift card that lets you move a pawn or a team to any city. Each player has a pawn that's going to be starting, like I said, in Washington, D.C., and our goal is to accomplish those objectives up there. The turn structure is pretty simple. On a player's turn, they have 4 actions that they can take. And so you have a whole pile of different actions that you'll be able to take on your turn, and I'm sure more of them will be added as the game goes on. The actions that you can take is a player can move from one city to another city following these lines, and so you'll move across those lines. You can also fly. So you can use a card in your hand to take a commercial flight. Now, if you have an allied card in your hand, a card that shows an allied symbol on it, so there's 3 different symbols on these different cards. So if you have an allied symbol and I have Johannesburg in my hand, I can reveal this card. I don't have to discard it. I can reveal it to fly to that city. So that's very convenient. For the neutral ones, I can discard this to fly to Lima. And for the communist-controlled ones, I can't fly there at all using a commercial flight. You can do an unrecorded flight. If I'm in Johannesburg, I can use the card that matches the city itself. I can discard that card completely and fly anywhere on the board, even to the Soviet cities that are out there. You can also neutralize an agent. This is something you'll do. If you're in a city with an agent, you can take one out. So if I have 4 actions, I could go 1, 2, 3 and take out 3 of those agents with 3 different actions. You can also share intel. If I'm in the same city as somebody else and I have a card in my hand, I can give them the card of that city. And of course, remembering that all the different characters have things that can break the rule. There's one character that can give any card to anybody in cities and so on. Players can also build a safe house. You might want to build a safe house in a city. You do that by discarding the city that's in there. Although, again, one character can build safe houses on the board for free. And some cities start with safe houses in them based on stickers and things that will show up as the game goes by. Now, one of the big things about this game is there's this unknown city here. How am I going to figure out what that city is? Well, as the game goes by, you might draw cards. So if I draw London, I'll say, well, it's obviously not London. And we can put a marker in London to show that London is not that target city. But also, if I'm in a safe house in that continent, that area, I can discard 3 cards of that color to reveal this and say, oh, it's Paris. All right, well, now we know what the city is. Another thing you can do is you can discard 5 cards with the same symbol here when you're at a safe house, and this will build you a team. Now, there's 3 different teams that match the 3 different symbols in the game, and once a team has been built, all the players for one action can move a team. Now, teams are pretty awesome because at the end of your turn, whatever city a team's in, they'll wipe out every agent in that city. But also, you need to get teams to these objectives. Once they're there, you will complete the objective. So this needs a Soviet team in this city, and this one needs any team in this unknown city. Now, if I've revealed the unknown city, like I shown you it's Paris, then hooray, we just go to Paris with the team. If you don't know, you can still try to complete the objective. You can say, I have a team in Madrid. Let's see if we do, and then you fail if it's the wrong one. And in fact, you can hedge your bets if you have multiple teams out. I could put, I'm like, oh, we're down to 4 cities. Well, I'm going to put teams in 3 of those 4 cities, and then let's hope that, oh, it's Paris. Oh, it's the one city we didn't put somebody in. So that's kind of how that's going to work. So players will be taking these different actions on their turn, acquiring targets, assembling these teams, driving these teams. Like I said, people have special abilities. One character can move a team 3 spaces. Another character only needs 4 cards to build a team. Another character can give cards to other players. Another character can move other players on their turn. And so there's all different things that can happen. One character can build safe houses for free. At the beginning of a turn, players have to be careful where they're at. If there's intel on the board, and more that will be added at the end of games. And if you're in a city with these surveillance tokens, you will lose cover for each one that's there, unless there's a safe house, because you can hide in a safe house and not have to worry about it. So players are watching for that. They're also going to be watching because at the end of their turn, they're going to draw 2 more cards, add them to their hand, but they're also going to be drawing cards from this threat deck equal to the threat level. When you draw these cards, you will add an agent to each city that's out there. Cities have a maximum of 3 agents. If you need to add an agent to a city that there is 3, instead of adding the agent, you are instead going to put an incident token in that city. You will draw the bottom card from this deck, and you'll do whatever it says on the bottom. So, for example, this one here says players in Asia or the Pacific Rim that are not in a safe house each lose 1 cover. So negative things will happen. And if you need to put out an 8th incident token on the board, then the game ends. The game will also end when you complete all or fail all your objectives. The game will end if all the agents are on the board, and the game will end if the player deck runs out. In the player deck are escalation cards, unfortunately. These will make the threat level go up, where you'll be drawing more than 2 cards. Also, they'll add more agents to the game and reshuffle the cards and put them back, which means cities that you've already seen will have more agents show up in them. The game comes with an operation deck that you'll pull cards from occasionally and do things with that. Sometimes you'll have to make decisions and rip cards up or keep cards in different folders. And there's a whole lot more to the game. But you're trying to win or lose a scenario or do adequate. If you complete one of your objectives, you've done adequate. If you complete all the objectives, it's a success. If you've failed 2 or more objectives, then you have a failure. And a failure, you'll do the month over again with the same objectives. Otherwise, the objectives are destroyed and removed from the game, and you just keep going on until you get to your final conclusion, which at the point of me recording this video, I don't know what it is yet, but we'll find out. I know that's not everything, but it's deliberately not everything. There's more involved in this game, but hopefully that gives you enough. There are things that you'll do from game to game. You're going to get money from game to game and be able to buy special abilities. Like, we gave this person a shop owner, where in a certain city they'll be able to do special things. So there's stuff like that that will make this game even more interesting as it goes by. And there you go. That's an overview of Pandemic Legacy Season 0. Hopefully you can see a lot of the changes themselves. Instead of at the beginning of the game, instead of a disease, there are agents all over the board, and you'll be taking them out when when there becomes too many. Instead of it spreading to other cities, you will have something happen there. You have these teams that you're driving around the board that will take agents out. A very big change of the game is the fact that you can now win a game, you can lose a game, or you can be adequate in a game. And even if you lose a game or you're adequate, the different games from month to month, even within a month, could be fairly different. And I can't talk much more about that without spoiling stuff. So this game is going to last somewhere between 12 games or 13 when you include the prologue, and you're going to have to play the prologue in this game just to get a grasp of how the mechanisms work. So you're going to play a minimum of 13 games, and I believe you could play a total of 24, but you probably won't play that many unless you're losing every single game that you come across. That's pretty much it, folks. I know that you are dying for more information about the game. We'll do a full review later on, but even when we do that review, we're not going to spoil much of what goes on in the game at all, because this is a game that you want to experience and go through. So with that being said, we'll see you more about this game in a couple weeks. Until then, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching the Dice Tower.